Does the sound of crickets and the birds of the African skies make you feel at home? When the leopard is hunting for its food and the sun is setting low, then make your way to Montecasino, where you will find Benny Bushwhacker, also known as Ben Voss, in his new show called Benny Bushwhacker Human Nature.
And then you're playing the flat, and it felt like it became too ethereal for me. And I love a script-driven genre, I think, was what I was realizing. So I gave that up and I went into engineering, and I did a 4-year engineering degree. Fell in love with a girl, which always keeps you in university, and then spent 4 years in love and not in love with engineering, but under a scholarship, in which meant I had to work back my 2 years on the scholarship. So while I was working back this 2 years in a very dirty, grimy mill for Sappi Cycle on the south coast, I went back to drama. This is now 6 years later, and I started popping into the drama department where Johnny used to hang around in his tie-dyes. And he had written a show called Private Universe, which we did together. But our first start was actually Oedipus. We put on this. I went back to that classic. I was an engineer and I was driving up in my overalls, changing costumes, going on stage for an hour during lunch break, and then driving back to Sappi and getting there at 3:30 to a very angry central mechanical engineer who was wondering where I'd been. And as the very moment that the amount of money I owed for my bursary coincided with the money I had saved through their Provident Fund collided, I said, that's it, I'm out. And I went into drama first time. And the funniest thing was, well, funny for me, was the first job I got when I came out of this engineering department was at a supermarket in Umkomaas, which is South Durban. And all the people from the mill, who I used to work with, I was this divisional engineer, all did their shopping there. And my first job was me in this multicolored wig with a massive clown nose and a huge clown outfit, and for the whole day, for $200, I was handing out Romney creams. And it was phenomenal because no one recognized me. All these guys coming through, they were like, yeah, go and get a Romney cream. And a couple did, and they looked at me and they said, what have you done? What have you done? Like, genuinely, you're an engineer. What have you done? And I was like, this feels right, you know? It feels right to be in this costume with this frizzy hair handing out Romney cream. I'd rather be doing that. And it was in that phase of transition where I met Johnny, and we've done a number of projects together. And I don't know how much depth I should go into that, but I'll let Johnny run with that a little bit, but because he wrote the first one we did. The second one was a cricket collaboration where we did a sort of Paul Stabilevsky type cricket show with just the two of us. Then we went into sketch comedy. And we've always had a phenomenal, I mean, he's my best friend, he was the best man at my wedding. So we've had this phenomenal to and fro, always with comedy. I mean, we're not necessarily, I think you're a funnier person than me, but we just somehow, the language sparked, we love silly things, as the bass is double entendre, but we also love physical comedy, and then we also love intelligent comedy and political satire and all these little genres that somehow came together with these two human beings. And so Johnny is central to my journey as an artist. And then, funny enough, Spud was largely one of the things that sort of started separating us. Not separating us, but pushing our creative journeys apart. Johnny got completely sideswiped by this incredible success of this book. And we were touring a very successful sketch show, making a good living and stuff, and I had to suddenly wake up, and I had to go, well, okay, I cannot be creatively tied to something. And Johnny had been exploring his personal vision for some time by now. And so in that moment, I looked at what I could do. And I realized fundamentally, although we'd been writing together, we'd been producing together, we'd been acting together, I was an actor. And owning that moment came in the form of me developing an alter ego called Beauty Ramapele Pele, who was this middle-aged black woman. I don't know anybody did see her, but she was, for 10 years, she was quite a sort of, she was my creative force. And it was during the time when those, the alter ego was quite a popular thing. You think about Sacha Baron Cohen and these guys, they were, and Peter Dirk had done it obviously before me, so he had trailblazed it largely for South Africans in their head, although it's an ancient craft. And he, and owning that character for 10 years, I suppose gave me an appreciation really for what it means to become a character. So in this show, for example, one of our bedrock things is Johnny and I insist that we play different characters. So you won't just see Benny Bushwhacker. He's our conduit. And then the funniness often comes from the outtakes, from the people who come in, who comment on Benny, or who diss Benny, or who take account of you to Benny. Which was quite different to Beauty. And what happened with Beauty was the political landscape in South Africa grew up, and she became null and void, actually, and I had to let her go. And it was hard, because it was like letting go firstly my income for 10 years, and this is, we know, a fickle craft, and then letting go of my, what I thought was my creative force, separate from the stuff that I'd done with John. This was my own creation, which had succeeded now, so I felt like far more artistically confident. And then I thought, well, what do I do after that? Because Beauty was starting to get some quite bad press, just in terms of, obviously a white guy, putting on an accent like this, just it's not right, And now I'm doing it, and immediately there's something that happens to it. And it makes sense, because there are black women who need to say these things. Beauty doesn't need it. So Johnny and I were sitting down. Now this is after 20 years of creative journey together. And we were sitting at I think for me the first seminal memory for the creation of this was Scale. Johnny did a big year last year, which is where you go and try and find as many birds as possible throughout the country. And you document them, and you register them on apps, and you keep a solid track. And he did an exceptional job, and one of his jaunts, which I go on occasionally, was to go to Zark's Cave. And we were sitting on the porch out there, and that seems to be my primal memory of it. And I was grappling with what to do next. And Johnny said, well, conservation's an important thing. We love being in the bush. What is close to a male archetypal South African thing you could play that doesn't label you too heavily, or that doesn't make you too contrary? And Benny Bushwhacker was the result. And that process has been completely different to Beauty, for example. So there I sat down and I said, right, I want to produce this. I want Johnny to write it. I want Janice to direct it, and I want to perform. I don't want to be the writer. I don't want to try and conceptualize. I want to let go of that. So as a result, we've had these three great minds contribute. I managed only to get Janice for about 4 weeks, but even in the writing process, she chipped in. Johnny sent us a first draft, chipped in again, but always it goes back to Johnny's desk. I make the call for the stage, Johnny makes the call for the script, and Janice's original calls were for the staging. Just for your benefit, Janice's contribution very much was staging, a sense of an arc, a sense of a mission, and a confidence in me, imbuing me with the confidence to own this character, and the other characters that jump in, which are slightly more broad-stroked. And that union has been fascinating, because I get on stage and I feel in my body that some character feels a certain way, and I immediately want to challenge the lines, or I want to challenge the staging, because I'm a free agent. I've always been a free agent. Now I should be able to, and I haven't been able to in a funny way. And then when I let go of that, it felt like it started to blossom. Since then, what we've done is we've done 3 or 4 major edits on the work that Janice did. So cutting out 20 minutes and putting in another 20. Then looking at that, doing it for Grahamstown, cutting out 15 minutes, adding and doing it for Durban, re-looking at Durban, and then doing it for Hilton. And in fact, this afternoon we're still going to discuss the final scene of what you guys will see on Thursday or Friday. So I've never quite felt like I've had my hand on it, which has been quite exciting, you know. It's been a really wonderful process, that. So I'm hoping what you guys see in it is part of that story, the joy of that it's a culmination of 20 years of partnership. Janice also directed Beauty's original show, so there's another marriage there. And hopefully, to some extent, a maturing of me as an actor, not a writer, actor, producer type of thing, I suppose. So that's what I'd like you to take away, if you feel it. And thank you again for coming. And I think that's my story, Johnny. I'll hand over to you. And I'm going to go and put some kit on, and then I'll come out and do a few little bits and pieces.
Thank you, guys. Again, thank you for coming. It's wonderful to see media supporting theatre. We come from Durban, and that doesn't happen unless you bribe somebody. Thank you, guys, again. You know, look, Benny has put it out there for you guys. I don't want to, you know, how do you speak through 23 years of friendship, collaboration, creativity, amazing moments, some shocking moments? You can't. So what I'm going to do is just highlight a few moments of my working career, my friendship with Benny, that I think had a huge impact on us and myself and my writing. And as you can see, as Benny said, how it impacted on him, but for me it impacted on my life completely too. So I first met Benny in 1996, 23 years ago. I was in third year varsity, and doing the drama, and I was told that we were going to do Oedipus and they needed small roles, and I was going to play a 102-year-old priest, and I looked about 16 at the time. Anyway, we were taken to this guy's house, and I just heard this music blaring, and we got in there, and this like really cool dude with like long hair, flared out sort of like pajama pants came out. He looked like a proper hippie, and I was told he was an engineer. I was like, oh geez, there go the bridges. Anyway, I was blown away by this guy. He had such confidence. He had just come back from a year trip of traveling, backpacking around the world, and he just had this creative, you know, thing going on. And amazing is that we had a shared sense of humor. I mean, we just started to laugh. I mean, we were the maniacs in that show. But it was just from that, I think we started to think we can do this comedy, we can crackle together. I'm going to fast forward about 5 years. Benny and I had done a few smaller shows, gone to Grahamstown, but I don't think we'd really sort of established ourselves yet beyond sort of Durban. And I, at the time, I finished my master's, and I was now sort of in that phase of what do I do next? Do I become a professional actor? Can I make a living out of this, etc.? And in 2000, I went off to Zimbabwe with some friends, and we went to Lake Kariba. And our houseboat capsized in Lake Kariba in a storm. Now I can tell you, just swimming across Lake Kariba in a crocodile-infested waters in a huge storm does get the brain thinking a little bit about things like legacy, life. Are you going to be still alive in a few years' time? And I'm kind of, to make matters worse, we went back to the farmhouse because we lost all our stuff in Lake Kariba, and war veterans surrounded the house, the farm, for 24 hours. So we were then besieged. So after living this very happy life up until then, I went through something that was quite traumatic. In many ways, the war veteran thing was worse because you had all this time to think about it and the consequences, whereas when you're swimming in Lake Kariba, you're just flying on the water to avoid crocs. But I came back, and I remember a night, we were at the yacht club in Durban. We were sitting on the edge of the pier, looking out, and we had a beer in our hands, and we were talking about what next. And I think there was this shared belief that whatever we did next had to be the thing. And we put together Green Mamba, our sketch show, and we went to Grahamstown, and it sold out. And we went to Durban, a small venue like this, and it sold out. And we just kept going and going and going. while this was going on, one of our first trips, we went back to Zimbabwe. Can you believe it? And Benny and I toured Zimbabwe, and we had the Zimbabwean police following us because we weren't being very kind to Mr. Mugabe at the time. May he rest in peace. And we had this weird kind of stress going on where we were changing lines, and we were sort of being chased, as it were. And I remember the last night we were in a hotel room, and I think we were in different hotel rooms, and I remember just getting a hotel pad and writing what became the first page of Spud. And it stuck with me. I came back, Benny and I kept touring, and I just kept writing. So I was performing by night, learning about comedy, learning about audiences, learning about timing, and writing Spud by day, obviously with no idea what would come of it. And Benny was right. When Spud did explode, it changed things. First of all, Benny and I went to Thailand at the end of 2004 to write Black Mamba. We thought we'd take a nice little island holiday. And obviously our timing wasn't that great, because if any of you know about tsunami history, you know that at the end of 2004, a huge tsunami smashed Thailand. So, we were running up the island, up the mountain, holding our laptop. There was floods everywhere. Again, disaster had followed us. We came back, we did Black Mamba, Spud launched, and suddenly I had two careers at once. I was performing full-time with Mamba, and my demands for Spud were just getting completely out of hand. I had to write a sequel, and I said to Benny, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to become a writer. And I think it was a very painful moment for us both. I mean, for me, I suppose it was easier because I was chasing onto something else. But I think it made Benny rethink his career. So anyway, I mean, as we go, there have been these massive moments with Benny and I in our careers. And getting to this experience now, yes, Benny mentioned I did a birding big year, which for some of you might just sound like madness. But the most incredible thing was just getting into these green spaces. And if you're going to see 551 South African birds in 1 year, you're going to be having to go to a lot of places. And it was in this time that not only did I get affected by the beauty of everything, the wild areas, and not just Kruger and the big reserves, but these little out-of-the-way places, these little sewerage places where you end up and there's birds everywhere. Bizarre. But through this whole thing, Benny and I started to talk. And what interested me too wasn't just the environment, but it was also the people that fill this world. Whether it be some dude in a camp chair in Kruger, whether it be a millennial who doesn't really understand nature, whatever it may be, we started to explore these characters. It was a great thrill to work with Janice Honeyman too. I had a great day where we came up to Joburg here, we all sat around the table, and we went through the script line by line, and she has such a sort of sharp eye. I mean, she's, as you all know, she's a doyen of the theatre. She's worked with so many great writers. So it was such a great experience for me to see how her mind worked and what she liked to chase in a one-person show, and that wasn't always what I was chasing in the script. So the ability to hone it, and the ability to watch Benny on stage in Grahamstown or in Durban or at Hilton, and then to adjust and to say, this is working beautifully, this is not quite working, how can we make that better, has been a great experience too. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to say too much more. If there's any questions you have, we'll chat about that later. I'm going to hand over to the man himself, Benny Bushwhacker, to give you a few minutes of his, a little taster of his great show. Thank you.
All right, welcome. Welcome to the Lumbombo Leopard Project here in the Mkuzi Bush. Now, our vision is simple, okay? We are here to save the African leopard, okay? More leopards equals more green spaces, okay? Equals a greener Africa. Right? Unfortunately, guys, we've got a massive droll in the drinkwater, okay? There's a huge problem that stands in the leopard's way, and bizarrely, it's another type of nature, okay? Human nature. Interesting phrase that. Eh? Human. Yeah. Nature. Whoo! It's like, it's what I call oxymoronic. Because it sounds moronic. Especially to an ox. You see, the trouble is that people, we think human nature is normal, when it's not. Eh? I mean, it's fine, because nature's freaky. I mean, how's this? Do you know that 3% of all ice in Antarctica is frozen penguin piss? Put that in your slush puppy and slurp it. You know? Snails. Snails can sleep for 3 years. That's the bonus, I suppose, of living rent-free. Hey, what about lobsters? Lobsters are freaky. How's this? A lobster can actually excrete through its face, which makes it the only animal to talk complete cuck. And that doesn't make him naturally the freakiest animal in the rock pool, trust me, no. The shrimp, a shrimp's heart is actually in his head. I mean, how does he know if he's having a heart attack or a migraine? It's like, imagine suffering from like cardiac depression. Giraffe are freaky. Female giraffe have no vocal cords. Bonus. No, seriously, male giraffe. I mean, 75% of all male giraffe have had homosexual encounters. How's that? Kangaroos can't fart. That's why they bounce so high. They're all stuffed full of Australian hot air. Bruce. Dingo. Billabong! No, but seriously, it's free. How's this? A frog. You can rub its tummy, okay, in order to hypnotize it. Hypnotizing humans is exactly the same. You just rub them elsewhere. It's freaky, right? Human nature is freaky, and yet we think it's normal. And perhaps, maybe, changing human nature starts with accepting that we are all freaks of nature. I mean, the youth of today are definitely freaks of nature. Eh? I'm talking about the millennials. These guys, the late 20s, or early 20s now actually, kids. Welcome, guys, to the environmentally aware, technologically gifted, okay, flamboyant haired, gender unspecific, selfie taking, acronym using, socially inept future of human nature. Hey, how's it, guys? Oh, cool. Is this beanbag taken, eh? Oh, cool. Oh. Yeah, so I'm Riley, hey? How you guys? You good? Press, eh? Cool. Yeah. No, I've been on this bush course with this Benny Bushwhacker dude. Yeah, honestly, such a tool, eh? Seriously. No, seriously, eh? The other day, right? We're all chilling, eh? And it's super mellow. And old Bushwhacker pulls in and he's like, "Hey Riley, dude, you don't appreciate nature." And I'm like, "Dude, my screensaver's a waterfall." Honestly, what the hell? I didn't even want to be here, man. I was supposed to be at this huge gig in Santon, but then I just thought, you know what, YOLO, let me just forego the FOMO, BC, I'm going to get more JOMO for not going, Oh, I was so wrong, eh? Guys, this place is bad. It's seriously. No, seriously. It's there's no reception. I'm busy looking at old photographs. It's serious. It's honestly, it's like Survivor, but without the rewards. So hectic. Yeah, I'm going to tell my mom and Loaded, my dad, definitely about this. Yeah, we're from Shlanga, whatever. Oh, jeez, I'm telling you. And you know what, hey? The other day, right, Uber Eats is 275 kilometers away. Bro, seriously, they get us up in the morning, right? I'm not even lying. For sunrise. Yeah, wait for it, bro. With Rick coffee. Dude, and white bread. I was like, I ate it because Uber's 275 kilometers away. But jeez, it's halfway to London for a deconstructed Avo burger, honestly, and then I thought, no, my economics tutor is no, you've got to go and do this course. It's going to help with your work ethic and show you what you've got, which is nothing. Hello. And he's such a freak, He's the one who can't even change the Snapchat settings on his phone, right? But I'm the dummy, because when he asked me about Excel, I said I do. And I'm sorry, I do. Okay, I excel. At everything. Or when I'm in the mood, No, seriously, I'm going to tell everybody about this place. I'm going to blow it wide open, man. I'm going to tell my mommy. Definitely going to tell my daddy. I'll tell my work mentor as well. I'll probably tell my psychologist, I reckon. My life planner. Dietitian. Personal trainer. Life coach. No, man, I'm going to tell everyone. I'm going to tell them the truth about this place, you know what? And if they're not offended on my behalf, then let them walk a mile in my LeBron James autographed Adidas. You know? It's like, seriously, see how tough it is to live the life of Riley. I'm Riley, by the way. Oh, anyway, I'm out of here. Hey, Bushwhacker, dude, why don't you just pull in here? I just want to take a selfie. Just to prove that I was here, you know. Cool. Do something bushy. Okay. That's cool. Oh my god, check that one, eh? Yeah, that's epic. Dude, you're pulling a face. Oh, it's cool, I'll edit you out. Yeah. Hey, good luck with the environment, eh? Yeah, especially with saving the snow leopard, whatever. Later. Unfortunately, guys, technology is the future of the leopard. It's the future of human nature. And trust me, I've tried. I've tried. You know, I downloaded Twitter. You know the directory of bird calls? I joined Tinder, you know, the firelighting app. I got so burnt, honestly. Yeah, they blocked me for going on about the length and hardness of my wood. You know, this is the trouble. These things, they don't use common sense, guys. And in the bush, believe me, you don't just need common sense. Common sense, it is your most vital sense. And snakes, for example, worse than human nature because they make us abandon common sense. You know, I mean, you either become like some Santon mommy. Oh my God. Barry, there is a flippin' Green Mamba right here in the kitchen. No, it's in the kitchen. It's gone between the blue and the orange recycling bags. Yeah, okay, it's gone to the glass recycling section now, babe. Yes, it's by the eco-chemicals. Yeah, it's right there. Oh my God, it's coming out. Barry, here's Philemon, the snake. Kill it. Kill the flippin' snake. Chop it in half. Good, okay, chop it again, Philemon. Okay, go again. Chopping, Philemon. Okay, I think it's dead, babe. Yeah. How long is it? Well, I can tell you, not as long as it was. Hey? No, it's green. It looks like that sort of tagliatelle, you know, the gluten-free one. Yeah. Okay, babe, I'm over it. Thanks so much. I nearly died. And you know what? You bought nothing for me to wear to my own funeral. Okay, bye. Philemon, seriously. Oh gosh, now I'm late for the Champagne beach cleanup. Fantastic. Have you got the keys for the Prius? I am the smart car. You haven't. Okay, well do me a favour, please clean up the snake. Please. And don't use a black plastic bag. Use one of those brown, recycled, upcycled ones that I've got downstairs in the craft cupboard. Okay, and what do we do with it after that, Philemon? We pop it onto the compost heap. Exactly, we've got to give something back. It's an eco-friendly house. Jeepers, being an environmentalist is such a bloody mission. You know? Or, common sense turns us, or snakes, excuse me, turn us into this idiot. Hey, cool, man. Is that a black mamba? Eh? Yeah, cool. I really dig snakes. Eh? Yeah, I've got a chameleon. His name's Liam. I found him in the Fynbos. Yeah, he's cool. Hey, check this guy. Eh? Yeah, hey little fella. He's bigger. Check how angry he is. Yeah, he's so cool. Do you talk with a forked tongue? Yeah, you do. That's so cool. Oh wow, he bites. Eh? That's so cool. Yeah, that's super epic. Yeah, that freaked me out. I'm like surprised. Super realistic. Yeah. Hey, does anyone else feel like their tongue is just like turning into a fire? That's so cool, man. This is epic, man. This is gonna freak me out. Oh wow, I can't breathe now. How epic. Check out. This is amazing, man. It's on the side of my face, so it feels a little bit. This is so weird. It's gone all. Okay, I'm actually battling to bring out the video the whole thing, man. Oh jeez, I'm gonna be trending. Oh my gosh, now I'm sending. Oh cock, I'm ending. Unfortunately, that guy, he was posted before he could post it. Human nature. Maybe changing human nature starts with accepting that we're all freaks of nature. You know, leopards, why we chose leopard is that because we've got this concept of more leopard equals more green spaces equals a greener Africa. Leopard is a roaming species and needs a lot of room. So that idea that the further they go, the more they get impacted on by human beings. And so Benny I've always seen as a character, though he's from the bush, he looks at that line where nature meets humans, which is why we call the show Human Nature. And it's that line that the leopard represents the most, because he's in the Cape, they've got the boys in the farmlands, they're constantly getting terrorized, the leopards. You can't control them because they get under fences, they get overtaken. So our initiative is to find collars and tracking and cameras in strategic places that set off minor alarms that they know when a leopard is, because leopards will use specific paths. They can't be sure about that apparently, I don't know enough about it, but there are certain paths that they can use where they know that if they trap there, it gives an early warning system just for things like sheep and cattle and those sorts of things. So that's where the money goes to, on that side. So I've got a little donations box which I put in the foyer at the end of each show, and it's actually been quite successful. Like I say, we've done about 25 shows now, each show pretty different, and we've managed to come up with about 18,000 Rand. So for every 25,000 Rand we make, they're able to monitor one key access point, and I think they want to get to about 4 for this specific community.
I'm just thinking about the difficulty of marrying such a serious thing into a comedy. Conservation in itself is a really serious issue, and our environment is suffering at the moment. Do you want to just give some insight into what it's like taking something really serious that you all have to take very seriously and making a comedy out of it?
I think it's a good question, very good question. You know what? In a way, things that aren't easy to make comedy out of make for the best comedy in weird ways. Where the majority of people look at it like that. I mean, when we see anything on television or whatever, it's climate change, it's serious stuff that's happening, plastics, the oceans, the impact of humanity on this planet. So it was interesting, because initially I think when I started the idea of the concept, it was going to be a comedy about the bush, with an environmentalist as the lead. And it very quickly changed from that to something that actually was looking at human nature and the impact between the two. So I guess in many ways it's looking at the foibles of humanity, because nature in a way is fixed. It's far more fixed than humanity is. Humanity is like the leopard. Humanity is getting over fences, getting under fences, doing damage here, potentially dangerous there. So look, it's interesting. I mean, some people may watch the show and go, I don't think we should be laughing at that. And other people might say, I think it's good to laugh at that, because it also isn't just a lecture about what many people know already, or some people need to know. And I wanted to get away from that. I think we felt whenever it was just lecturing, then we were drifting into something into territory that we weren't happy about. We wanted to keep cutting in and not, although passing a message, not lecturing. Yeah.
And we made quite a conscious decision, because you can't finish the show, funny enough, on a laugh, because then it feels like you feel like you're laughing at the whole concept of conservation, So while the entire stretch of it is comedy, literally the last couple of lines just settles the message. So we leave people we didn't compromise that for the undercut.
Correct.
That's the only place we didn't compromise, was that last line, so that you feel, I won't give it to you now, you can see it on the night. You can see where that we took your what I feel might be your side, it might not be right, but that we took the conservation angle as the up, rather than the comedy angle.
And I think the other thing that is with the show is that you almost get to go spend an hour in the bush. When the lights are down, you've got the sound of crickets and owls, and he's in there and he pulls it in. I mean, you saw a few snippets today, but there's something that's quite wonderful about almost feeling like you in the bush. You are in this bush boma in Mkuzi. And I think that feeling too is something I think we both wanted to try and get across to the audience.
So there's a soundtrack that plays throughout, just of those typical night sounds, some people will come out and they go, hey, I heard 5 different species of bird in there.
That's me.
Yeah. And he's not talking about the Santa Monica. So it was, that's lovely that. Where I feel, and it's hard as a performer that sometimes, because you don't want people to go out going, it's funny, but also, was it serious? And I had some issues with that in Grahamstown, and I feel we've ironed them out. We decided push the comedy until we have one message.
yeah, Benny won 2 Ovation Awards in Grahamstown, and then phoned me and said, I don't know. It feels too serious, you know. He was in a bit of a crisis, but I mean,
I've never won Ovation Awards, but because it had like
it was a terrible sign for comedy. If you win, it's a terrible sign. We knew we were on the wrong track immediately. Far too serious. So I mean, we jest. I mean, but what I'm saying is that there is a seriousness that sits in there. It's got a little serious heart that sits there in amongst the comedy. Yeah. Yeah.
And Benny's not slapstick comedy, as you see. The characters sort of jump out. He's got some nice lines, but he's the genial host with some energy, ideally.
Kimberly had a question. Yeah, I was just wondering, do you have any plans to take it internationally? Because, I mean, it's something that I think, speaking as an American watching it, I think the Yankees could use it. I think they would appreciate it, and I think it would work, personally.
Yes, we did actually, we bore that in mind. I think because it's a universal concept, and we're not resting on satire, we're not resting on things that are pertinent to South Africa. We're resting on global concerns.
Yes.
We are using the leopard as the metaphor, but he only pops in every now and then, and you can easily adjust that for an American audience, for example. So I would like to see it travel. We haven't had any bite. I've had one bite from Kenya, but other than that, I haven't had any international bites as yet. I've looked into festivals, for example. I'm looking into Edinburgh. It's an economic, a little bit of an economic mountain, but it's certainly available for that. So you're welcome to phone that millionaire. Who owns that big theatre there? Get hold of them and we'll just see what happens.
But I think also Benny's just started this journey. I mean, I kept saying that to Benny, that I love the fact he started in Grahamstown and he's been in Durban and Hilton, totally backwaters. I know you guys have never heard of these places, but you know, like real, but he's starting in this, rather than coming to Joburg straight up, you know, giving us a chance to hone it. And I really feel very excited. I mean, you've got 3-4 weeks here and you've got a big run in Cape Town coming up, and it feels like you are peaking at the right time, and I'm hopeful that you're going to get knocks from these 2 runs particularly.
Yeah,
but we'll have to see.
It's up to the universe.
It's up to the universe, and your uncle.
How many characters are we going to meet in
About 14.
Awesome.
Yeah, 12 to 14, something like that. Some just jump in for a line, some jump in for whole scenes. Like, the Mystic couple, they've done quite a few there. 14. Some are integral, which I had to take out for this because they actually are plot drivers and that sort of thing, which I can't reflect now. Those are the ones you've missed are actually, funnily enough, some of the primaries, they're almost driving something forward. You know, Johnny loves a bit of plot.
Forgive me, am I right?
Yes.
How long does the creative process take? From the minute the idea starts germinating to the point where we are now, we can actually put it on stage and invite
Go.
So it's variable. You mean the personal process, or this one particularly?
the entire process.
For Benny Bushwhacker?
Yeah, exactly.
You go, because you've got a better memory than me.
I think we started in. We conceptualized the thing around about July and really spoke about it whenever we were sort of, had a moment, and for probably 4 or 5 months we built the idea just by
July last year.
From July, and then I started writing monologues in January. I wrote for about 3 or 4 months, and then Benny went off to work with Janice for a month.
Yes, that was May, right?
June. Then Grahamstown. So really, it's been from inception. It's now been a year and 15 months, but it's probably 9 months since we started writing it. So it has been quite a process.
Yes.
I know, I just said like a baby.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, why I asked the question of about Benny Bushwhacker, we're working on this other, like an animation series, which we've been working on for 6 years, like 5 years, and we just came off a weekend working on that now. But because we only get a weekend and there are 3 people working on it, you just take what you can. So some things take forever. I think Beauty got on her feet very quickly, and then adjusted all the time.
do you think would enjoy this thing?
Everyone would enjoy it, and it's got no age restriction. It's got maybe one or two sort of double entendres, but really nothing that the kid would pick up on. So, in turn, I would have to say from the age of, for enjoyment, 12 upwards.
And I think to anybody with a knowledge or love of the bush, or
Passion for the bush helps.
it helps, but I don't think it's a necessity, you know, because I think you can see, as you can see, a lot of the characters that he's playing are people who aren't bush people. They're actually people who sort of stick out in the bush, fish out of water, as it were. So I do. I think it's got a wide reach, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of what the spread of the audience is as you go through here.
Yeah, up till now it's been very. I've had schools in there. I've had old people. I've had a lot of people who love the bush definitely come up afterwards. It's like they want to talk about it, and they're grateful, and you know you're grateful to them because they're an owner of a game farm somewhere that they so those sorts of avenues are very open to me. I can feel that people invite me to come to things. I went on a 5-day bushwalk with training rangers, which was amazing. Like. You go for 5 days, you're not allowed phones, you're not allowed cell phones, you're not allowed watches, you're not allowed tents, you're not allowed, you just go in the bush for 5 days with 8 rangers. And that's just absolutely...
It was tough for me because I couldn't get hold of bed.
Yeah. I mean, these things exist, you know, that you can go and do that. It's just phenomenal. And the guy said such an amazing thing. He said, he sat us down, you have like a ring. Walk into the bush for the first day for about 2 k's, and then he sits you all down on your backpacks and he goes, you know, one of these very sort of spiritual, calm men, and he goes, don't go into the bush. We're not going into the bush. We are coming so that the bush can come to us. You know, all this really, and it sounds so airy-fairy sitting up there in Joburg in the big smoke, but actually, it was so important for me because I'm such a sort of go-getter and I get anxious and I get like, okay, I haven't seen this and when was it? There was such a sense of just like allowing the bush slowly to almost creep into you and then become part of who you are, as opposed to, I've seen that, I want to go there, where does this river go, where does that go? And it's a very different way to accept the bush. And that 5 days of that, eventually you just go, gee, I think I've got a hint of where Benny comes from. Yeah, it's amazing. Brilliant. Answer your question.
So I've got a friend who's actually a game ranger at Londonderry, and I actually had to report some just so I could say I've met his alter ego. It's so scary how spot on you've got that. You know, all of them. It's pretty amazing. So obviously you've spent time with the game rangers, as you said now.
Yeah.
Millennial convo happening right there. Did you integrate yourself pretty deep in the millennial society?
You know what? This is actually quite a weird question because yes, the millennial was a real battle for us. The millennial, Johnny had this vision of the millennial. Janice and I just took it somewhere else. I rewrote the script. I was like, Johnny, I'm making changes.
Which was the one thing when I sat there with Janice and Ben. They read the millennial and I was so excited for it. And they had this weird, they turned into this weird, sort of sexually dimorphic and it wasn't funny. And I was like, what have you done to my millennial?
Heteronormative, you know.
So I had to tell Janice I wasn't happy with them and Penny, the millennial.
Johnny said, either cut it or change it. And so I was like, Jesus, gosh. And then when he just said, then Johnny said, just think of this teenage slacker, entitlement, and just like, and immediately just, you know, it's got to click, but I put it in front of an audience for the first time like that. I hadn't even, and it just came alive. So he's a really nice character, he worked. And then the funniest thing was on this bushwalk, we had this 18-year-old. I just looked at him, he was wandering around the whole time like this, and just going, oh my gosh, and looking at his phone, and then couldn't have his phone, and he was completely like bipolar, so he would talk about one thing, and then stand around the braai, and then like sit down and get up. Oh my God! That nailed it for me. But now when I get lost on stage and I feel the audience maybe a bit shaky, I just think about that guy. He hit it.
Yeah, interesting journey. That actually, it felt like, in a way, it's a classic thing of overcomplicating a character, and you lose sometimes the simplicity, which makes it funny. Or which,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. It was a great example because we nearly cut the whole thing.
we did, and then suddenly in Durban, after it had been struggling in Grahamstown, suddenly it exploded. And actually, when I was going, it's the best part. Or, and then you move to the next place, and somebody liked something else. So it's nice how that moves. Yeah, that's a great evolutionary process.
Do you find that people respond to different characters every night? So is it essentially a different show for you every night, or is it? Are there common threads from an audience perspective of what they respond to?
Because we've changed it so much. So I did 10 shows in Grahamstown with one show. Still making changes. Every 2 days I would maybe phone Johnny. Sometimes I'll just take executive decision and try something.
Better not to know, sometimes.
So as a result, I never quite settled in it. So every time was a surprise. Sometimes I would laugh at something and I go, I bagged that. And then they wouldn't, because in myself I was relearning lines, I was relearning the process, that sort of thing. Which has kept it alive and wonderful, but it's also been quite terrifying. I feel, funny enough, the best show I've had was in George, to about 40 people 2 weeks ago. And that was where I suddenly felt there was solid laughter even while I was building the plot, which is so important. The plot, which is, and it crescendoed right, and then it took the message. And so I feel like I'm there now. I feel like Joburg is a good time to be in front of you guys. As nerve-wracking as it is, it's a good time to be here. Yeah.
Once we've done the ending this afternoon, no, it's a small change though, don't worry, it's a small change. But if there's a long pause at the end, he hasn't quite remembered it.
Am I jumping the gun if I ask about the new book? John's new book?
Yes, thank you for asking, because I was going to have to make an announcement. I've been working on my new book, and it's been my labour of love for 4 years. It's completely different to Spud, although it is a comedy. I'm hoping it's going to be funnier than Spud, but who knows, that's up to the reader. It's set in London, an antisocial South African living in London who is out of work and is trying to avoid work and is slowly slipping into bankruptcy and starvation. And he takes in a lodger, and they start going to funeral crashing to make ends meet, basically to eat, in Clapham. And I chose Clapham because that's where my great-grandmother comes from. And using my life experience of disaster and unexpected sort of fame that suddenly was thrust upon you, this guy becomes a tour guide and starts having disasters on every mission he goes on. And he starts to become locally famous for it, which is obviously for an antisocial character the worst thing that can happen. So this novel is about a man trying to escape his own fame and his own fate. And it's been such a process. Like Benny Bushwhacker, I feel like I've almost written it 3 times until I've got it to now where it's starting to feel really funny to me. And that's always the key for my writing, is if it's feeling funny, it means it's reaching a stage of quality. Because books can't just be funny, you can't just tell jokes in books. Things have to be set up, everything has to be, the characters have to be bedded in. So the great news is in 32 days, I'm handing it in to my publisher, the first draft. And then I've got about a 4 or 5 month editing process with my editor, and it's going to launch at next year's Hilton Festival in September. And then I'm going to be on a publicity tour, and I'll be coming up to Joburg as well to launch it then. It's called Clapham Grand, and I've got big hopes for it, but at the same time, it's my baby. So whatever happens, it happens. On the same side, I've also been working on Spud the Musical with 2 very talented young guys in Cape Town who got hold of me about a year ago, and they were just so passionate, and they had this vision. They're really talented songwriters, and so I've been, can you believe it, 14 years after Spud was published, I've gone back to it again, and I've had to break it up, and this time into a musical, and I've loved it. It feels like it's going to make such a great musical. I think it's going to make a better musical than a film, because it's going to be full of joy, and and it's going to be a great teen musical too, I think, and it's got a lovely story, and I'm really enjoying the music. So there are two big projects for me, and obviously Benny. So this has been such a busy year for me writing-wise, where the first quarter of the year was really all Benny Bushwhacker, and since then it's just been these two other projects, and sort of checking in with Ben along the way. So thank you for asking. Those are my two babies on their way next year. So
is that the timeline for Spud the Musical? Can I ask?
Spud the Musical. Look, it's going to be. I can't. You see, the thing with Spud Musical is now, like films, we're going to probably have the script done by, I would say, by January or February, with music and everything. But then starts the chopping process of, and there's no bigger graveyard than musical graveyards. But I'm just hopeful that Spud still registers with people, and they would go in their heads, that would be a cool musical. I'd take my kids to see that, or take the family to see that. So look, from I reckon early next year we're going to start shopping it around. But you start with the very top, and then you move down, and eventually you're desperately begging some sort of mad uncle. Tell him we've got a lot of projects lined up. Anyway, but so I don't know when it will come, but it's going to be, it'll be ready to be shopped around next year. So next year is actually a big year for me, because things are going to all come out, and but most of the writing has been happening this year and last year.
How close will the musical be to the book? Because obviously you can't replicate everything.
No, you can't. And you know what? I've added in a few great lines that I wish that I had in the book. I wouldn't say they're quite naughty, but you know what? I actually love the idea of now being able to bounce on it. And working with the films really broke me in, because you start with started with the film, and there was another writer and director who had his vision, and he went to Bishop's, Joburg lad, lovely guy, but he had his vision, and it's in a way it felt like it was quite a shock, the way they broke things up, and the way great comedic scenes were just eliminated, and I suppose what he chose to put into it. I mean, by the end, I loved the movie. I mean, I did. It's a lot more serious than the book, and it hits you there, but it's a beautiful movie, shot on film. We had like a 30 million rand budget, which is huge for South Africa, and John Cleese and Troy and all the rest. It's fantastic. But this gives me that opportunity to, I think, I never felt like I was in control of the films. I felt other people were in control, and I was chipping in and giving advice, etc. Whereas this, I feel like in a way I've been able to control it. But that also doesn't mean that I'm precious. I'm not a very precious writer. Benny will tell you, I'm very happy to throw out, and some of that is the problem. I'm a factory, and then I will throw out, like my book, I've written it 3 times to get to the...
Three times. We'll go,
it's like a plane keeps trying to land at the airport,
Throw out 80,000 words.
No. I'm the worst killer of trees in the world. Thank goodness it's on my computer. But anyway, sorry, just to get back to that. But I just feel that the Spud musical could be a very exciting thing, and it's just what an exciting thing to be a part of. It's 2 young guys, and they are so excited. I mean, they get such a kick out of the fact they're working with me, and that gives me a kick too. So it's been brilliant. So those 2 projects have been great. And I love collaborating. I love collaborating with Benny, always have. And it's, writing books is a lonely job. You kind of locked away in your room for ages and slowly go mad. And it's funny. It gets taken away from you. Then there's a 7-month hiatus where nothing happens, and suddenly the book comes out, and it's just a funny process. But thank you for the question. Yeah.
You mentioned, so now I'm sorry to take away from Spud now. Is that okay?
No, I've more than said yes.
You mentioned a cartoon that you were writing, and that got me excited because I am a mom and my kids watch Wildcrats, and I feel that we need more of that. So I want to know more about what it is. And what is
like
it? Well, she might. Okay, no. Look, it's adult. We've got
adult animation.
Yeah. When I say that, it's like in the, how do we say?
If you throw back what
the Family Guy, Rick and Morty, those kind of teens are
watching. Look, I
it.
approve.
Yes.
That's about the kids.
Okay. Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Benny, do you want to?
what are you looking for? You're looking for like a little bit of a synopsis type thing?
Yeah, like what it's like.
So basically, the title, funny enough, which is coming to this show too, is at the moment sitting as Freaks of Nature. And it's about a group of 5 sort of freaks who thrust into a penitentiary for freak animals, a nuclear wasteland. And they have developed key friendships that sort of keep them alive and make them survive, but then also allow them to escape. And we've got a character who's a couch who has morphed into a tree. And we started calling him Couch Potato, but now he's like, and all that happens is just his seat talks. And he's a sort of windbag philosopher. So he's our sort of oldest character. Then we've got JT, who's the fast-talking rodent, who is sort of ever the optimist, driving people out of the camp, saying, guys, I've got a big plan, it's happening today. Then our sort of central root in the thing is Dave, who's like a really genial lion, you know, and he's like the dude from
Big Lebowski.
Big Lebowski. It's just a genial guy. And then we've got Sky Fox, who's a acerbic, intelligent, techno-driven fox, Sky Fox, who's into media and those sorts of things. And she's, and then we've got a baby, human baby, which basically called Tassie, who is a complete psychopathic schizophrenic who goes from
based on Ben's daughter.
Yeah, based on my daughter. Our byline for her is kills with cuteness. So she literally brings you in with these beautiful boggly eyes, and then she just fucks you up, rips you to shreds and tears your leg off and then feeds you to Dave the lion. Because food is so scarce in this place. So we play with all those things with animals, and then we extrematize them. So things like feeding, breeding, cleaning, preening, things animals do all the time. We just do it in the most ridiculous, JT and Dave in the bath, and Dave like licks himself, he needs a bath, it's been a month, he licks himself and vomits. He's like, I'm going to clean myself, man. And JT trying to scrub him, so it's a wild, it's a wild piece of goodness.
I think we want to create a South African animation project and sit up there and compete with all these guys.
Yeah, we want to go in right at the top.
I know it's hell of ambitious, but we've got a great animator here. We're now, this weekend we wrote our not a pilot, we were doing like a little promo, like a 1 minute 30. Like a trailer, basically a trailer that we're going to send out with our package, and it's going to be American voices, so it's not going to necessarily sound all South African, but we feel that we've got something to draw on, not only the wild thing, but the sense of freak, the sense of being othered, and celebrating these freaks, because that's really what it is. It's telling all these kids it's okay to be a freak too, deep down, and having a lot of fun. And these people, these characters are seriously dysfunctional, and we have such fun imagining how dysfunctional we can make it. We have these huge, arguments, but how weird, or how big, or how funny we can make it. But that's been I didn't even mention that, but that's been another thing that we've been doing.
And that, like you said, less time consuming because we literally cut off 4 days. We're going to smash it. Take the graphics with us, have a look, see where the characters are going. You've got to describe each character, their characteristics, how they look, how they feel. Then they've got to 3-dimensionalize them. So the next 2 months, the animators are 3-dimensionalizing our set characters, our set, like what have you got? Have you got plutonium barrels? Have you got a little well where the plutonium bubbles out of it? Have you got a couch? You've got a caravan? You've got a car? And because that's what you're going to be able to use in 3D once you start writing. So those things are so important. How does the world fit together? And I know it sounds like you could just come up with that in an evening.
But it's a challenge, yeah. Because you've almost got to master the medium before you can actually execute it, So, I mean, but it's been great, it's been a great test.